blind faith, faith based on knowledge, and faith based on experience. Remember that? Ashtika, ashtikya. Faith is one of the niyamas. So that I gave some of these talks at the Chinmaya Mission in Houston. Really a big Chinmaya Mission. They have 1,000 kids in their classes. Wow. Run very precisely. Mr. Nanavati, everything's on time. Made me end my talk on time. Oh, passed it. So I had some quotes from, extra quotes than I normally use from Swami Chinmayananda. And the talks normally, there'd just be one, maybe two at the max in a long talk, but a little more talk, more quotes. And this is a nice one. I don't remember the exact wording, but it has to do with faith. Faith is believing in the unseen. The result of faith is to see what you believed in. That's the Hindu concept of faith. So, but that'll get explained as we go forward. And it relates to the concept of religion. In some religions, you walk in the door, you don't believe in God. The group convinces you to believe in God. You say, I believe in God. Beginning and end of the process, right? There's nothing more to do. You believe in God. Run out of things to do. So, of course, that's called blind faith, because you could walk out the door. Somebody who's more strong-minded than the people that you just talked to could talk you out of believing in God and make you a secular humanist. Because it's not based upon anything. It's just based upon the power of someone else's mind over your mind. Blind faith. Totally unstable. So obviously we don't want to encourage people just to have blind faith. What's the second step? Faith based upon knowledge, spiritual, religious knowledge. That's why it's important to study scriptures and know what you believe in and be able to explain it. And talk to others who believe in the same thing. And then you have certain knowledge. And that makes your faith stronger. So you read about other people's experiences. You read about the spiritual path and so on, and therefore you end up with a stronger faith. But even there isn't the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is some kind of experience. I think there are two examples I remember from it. One is a visiting Swami. So the young lady had been reading the Upanishads for a number of years and had a certain appreciation, but then the Swami came to town and lectured on the Upanishads in a very convincing way that inspired her and showed, because the Swami was kind of putting some of his own personal experience into the words, and that gave her a sense of experience that she didn't have before, and strengthened her faith, hearing the words from someone who had deeper experiences. And then the other example is someone who meditates every morning and doesn't have great results, but one morning really goes far in, and on coming out, and it feels all pervasive. Gee, I'm everyone. I'm everything. This is kind of nice. So that's an experience, wouldn't last more than 5 or 10 minutes necessarily. It's a state of mind that you could come out into from a profound meditation. It gives you a sense of unity, the unity of all things, which is there. It's just we're not in that state of consciousness, which is unity. We're usually underneath it, so to speak. We have to come up to it. But in this case, in meditation, you can come down to it. In the human way of looking at things, come down to being all pervasive. And see, when you're all pervasive, it's a very interesting problem, because you're everywhere, so that you can't go anywhere. You're already there, right? It's like the nerve energy in your body, unless it's cut off, or unless you have an injury. I can say, are you aware in your left foot? And you say yes. I have nerves in my left foot that are working, and I'm aware of my left foot. Do you have to travel to your left foot? No, you're already there. So just, that's why in the drawings, it puts the universe inside the body of Shiva. It's the same concept. It's as if the universe was your body. You're already there. There's nowhere where you're not, so you can't go anywhere. Therefore, if you move, you don't feel you're moving. So if you ever move and you don't feel you're moving, you know you're all pervasive. That's proof of it. Anyway, that's the third stage of faith, and it's very important part of Hinduism that we don't just believe in blind faith, accepting God without any knowledge. We don't even want to stop with faith based upon knowledge. We want to head for faith based upon experience. That's the unshakable faith, even if the experiences are simple ones like I was just talking about. These are experiences anyone could have, being uplifted by Swami and perceiving something about the Upanishads you didn't, or coming into a profound state after meditation for 5 or 10 minutes. I had an interesting experience at the Hindu Students Association last year. There was about 110 students, and I think 30 of them asked me the same question: how did you get started in Hinduism? Next time I was thinking of printing a pamphlet. I could just hand it to someone and say, this is how I got started. How Bodhinatha and Swami got started in Hinduism. So,
sounds like it to do.
the answer I give relates to faith and mysticism. And because one of the aspects of Hinduism that certainly impressed me early on was the place of mysticism in it. Mysticism meaning personal experience, or what we're talking about here, the third stage of faith, personal experience, so it's called mysticism. And sometimes, rather naively, Hindus say all religions are the same. When you talk about mysticism, oh yes, all religions are the same. But it's not really the case. And a story to illustrate is a woman drawn to our teachings, grew up Catholic, even spent a couple of years in a Catholic nunnery. And when she was in the Catholic nunnery, she was having inner life experiences, going way within. She shared the experiences with the nuns, and they said, you can't be having these experiences, and they kicked her out. There's so much for mysticism in modern day Catholicism, at least in that particular branch. I'm not trying to generalize. But it shows, this pie in the sky attitude of all religions are one and this and that. When you get down to the actual institutions existing on earth today, it's not necessarily the case. And so the story that impressed me, and I still use it, I have to try and find a new one from the Guru Chronicles sometime soon. Replace some of my stories with Yoga Swami stories. But this is the one, the Vivekananda story really impressed me, that Vivekananda had just graduated from the university in Calcutta. He was from a very devout Hindu family, but it was a British university. And of course, British universities then taught you to be anti-Indian, anti-Hindu, because the British way of life is the superior way of life. You want to join the British club and play polo and do all the things that British gentlemen do, right? That's what's out there at that time in India, and it's still there in some circles. So he was somewhat skeptical, but sincere. So he was going around to the Hindu leaders in Calcutta, the prominent Hindu leaders, and was asking a very bold question, because that was his approach. Sir, have you seen God? Remember the story? Well, he went around to a number of people, and he didn't get a satisfactory answer until he met Sri Ramakrishna. So he asked Ramakrishna, he said, Sir, have you seen God? Ramakrishna said, yes, I've seen God. God is clearer to me than an apple in the palm of my hand, and furthermore, you too can see God. Well, that's a great answer, right? You couldn't ask for better than that, because it's twofold. It's not just saying, oh yes, I've seen God, I'm great, and please worship at my feet. No, it's very humble. It says, you too can see God. So he's indicating that he would help him also see God. So that's what he was looking for, that kind of guidance. And it's a wonderful story, and shows how mysticism is part of mainstream Hinduism. It's not on the fringes. Mysticism in Islam is called Sufism. It's on the fringes. Most Muslims won't accept it. The leaders in Malaysia, for example, will speak against it. It's not in the mainstream. It's not accepted. But nobody in Hinduism is going to speak against mysticism. It's just a mainstream accepted belief. If someone says, I've seen God, other Hindus will say, okay, if you believe the person, become their follower. That's great. But one last point is what I call the kind of idolization phenomena. I noticed it when did we drink the whole thing? Amazing. That's maybe because I'm talking. I noticed it in visiting the Yoga Swami devotees in Toronto. Been there maybe 4 years. And there's 4 or 5 different groups, and they don't get together normally unless I come. Then they've all agreed to get together. Set aside the individual leaderships and preferences. All come together. So I would tell about Yoga Swami. You know, how Yoga Swami was a great meditator, and for Shivaratri, how he'd observe Shivaratri, he'd sit all night in lotus meditating, wouldn't move, and people would look at him, and he'd be a pillar of light. He wouldn't even be a physical body. A story like that, that's pretty impressive, right? Whoa, Yoga Swami, yes. But what they were doing was this point. They were putting him up on a pedestal and putting themselves down here. And that's all they were doing. But that's not the point. Any greatness you see in a Yoga Swami is your own future. It's your own future. You'll be like that someday. Everybody will be like that someday. That's the important point. The greatness you see in others, spiritual greatness, is something you will have in one life or another. It's inevitable. It's part of the process. So we need to realize that. And it gives us a kind of a greater sense of our own potential and who we will be or who we are in potential right now. There's one quote on that from Clear White Light chapter. It's one of my favorite chapters Gurudeva wrote. And he's saying, if you look out this way, instead of this way, you can see faces. You can see beings. There are actually beings in the third world, Karananaloka, Shikaloka. And he says, you may see the face of a master peering into yours. He is your own great potential. Remember that? So that's the same point. He is. Don't sit there and worship him and say, oh, you're great. I'm nothing. He is your own potential. Let his attainment quicken your motivation. You know, make you get inspired to work a little harder at this process. Oh, look what he attained. You know, maybe I'll put a little more energy into this. It's kind of worthwhile. So, thank you very much.